Hello, my friends. It's your buddy Phil here, project management trainer and coach. You know, I've got my ear down to the ground to hear whatever is happening in the community. And right now, I hear a lot of people who are failing the exam complaining about certain things. And I want to bring these things to your attention so that you will prepare and not fall into these traps. So, right here on the screen, two huge things: reading fast. You have got to read fast on your exam. The exam is not going to stand around waiting for you to answer questions. It is going to go by very quickly, my friends. So you need to get into the groove of reading fast. I'm going to share with you a few ideas on this topic first. So let's jot down some ideas. And I'm going to share how I did it, how to read fast on an exam. The way you get good in reading fast is practice. Practice makes perfect. And it's not just cliche, it's actual truth. If you're not practicing to read fast, how on earth do you think you will end up reading fast on the PMP exam? You're not going to magically be able to whiz through the content. So you've got to practice. You got to practice a lot of questions. And then you've got to practice with the time component. I see a lot of folks doing mock exams and not timing themselves. Well, this is a huge mistake. You should aggressively practice with a timer, really aggressively. Think about it. You have 230 minutes on your PMP exam. If you divide 230 by 3, you'll get a rough idea of how quickly you should be going through this content. And I've done this before in a previous video, but let's do it again. 230 divided by 3 is 76.666. All right, so let's just be conservative and say you've got 75 seconds per question. If you are going through mock exams and you are spending more than 75 seconds, you know that there's no way you're going to cut it on the real exam. So you got to train yourself to be able to do this, okay? I would also advise looking at the countdown. Start off with an awareness of 230 for part 1, and your timer at part 2 should be 150, thereabouts. This is what I would do to be very aggressive with my time. And then part 3, I would expect 75 minutes on the countdown for part 3. If you are not practicing with this in mind, you will find it hard. And you get to the end of the exam as a few people have complained with all of these questions left. This is not what you want to happen. So you've got to practice. And like I said, practice with a lot of questions. Okay. Now moving on, how do you practice apart from questions? I have an idea and you may not like it, but I'm going to share it anyway. You have got to read PMBOK guide, bleak, esoteric, boring language. You have got to, my friends. It's going to be boring. It's going to be bleak. It's going to be esoteric. Yes, 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 yes. But you are not going to overcome your exam hurdle without getting into the bleak, boring, esoteric, irritating at times language. Now, that language doesn't have to stay that way. For example, when I read the PMBOK guide, it's like, all right, this is business as usual. It's not a threat. There's just too much fluff. But you got to get used to reading through fluff. And the way I did it, my friends, on my exam, I read the PMBOK guide 2.5 times. Why did I read it half a time? Because I was reading the wrong PMBOK guide to start with, and I'd gone halfway through the 3rd edition, only to realize my exam was based on the 2nd edition. So I read the PMBOK guide, both the newest one and the one that I was taking, the older one, and I read it. And this is what a lot of people are missing. I'm not saying go read the seventh. I said the sixth. So read the PMBOK Guide sixth. To be quite honest, you open the PMBOK Guide seventh, it's deceptively friendly looking, but it has very little substance as far as the heavy language. The PMBOK Guide 6 is heavy. And this is what people are encountering on the exam, and they're not able to whiz through it because they haven't practiced. I'm talking about 2022 now, my friends, because the exam morphs and changes. 2021, everyone and their pet dog and their pet hamster were killing the exam. But now we found a lot of people, so many people, finding it hard to cut through the crud on the exam in terms of the language. All right. So, my friends, this is my advice to you to get good, cut through the fluff. You got to be used to reading PMBOK Guide language, because from what I'm hearing, the language is heavy. It's very situational, and you're finding all kinds of terminology and you're not able to go through it. So you got to practice reading, and you got to practice reading fast. Okay. There's no way around it. Now, if you have some medical considerations that can be factored in, and maybe you have ADHD, ADD, and you get a doctor's note, you do know that you can approach the PMI and say, hey, I've got this condition, and this should give me more time on the exam. What can you do for me as far as exam accommodations? And one of my students actually got 8 hours on an exam, 6 hours on an exam. It really depends. Now, they didn't need all that time, but it is helpful, especially if you're able to prove through a doctor's note. All right, so that's about reading fast. Now, when it comes to process, same thing. What I have found for process is that the PMBOK Guide language and knowing the flows can help you. So let's talk about that. Let's go to the process concerns. So let's move on to process concerns. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to tackle these process concerns. Right off the bat, you got to know your process flows. There's no shortcut to it. I know some people intuitively might be good with some of this stuff, but for those of you that have struggled, you really need to get the 5 process groups down and the 49 processes, what is being done, and you got to know it to the T. I'm not talking about cramming inputs and outputs. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about truly knowing what is being done inside out. So if we talk about developing a project charter, you're not just thinking about sitting down writing a charter. You're thinking about the flow that happened from a needs assessment, right? Someone says they've got a need, and you got to assess, okay, what exactly is this need? And is it really a need that can germinate into something else? And from the needs assessment and the questionnaire that you fill in the needs assessment, you proceed into a business case that makes a case for the project. And from the business case, you proceed into a benefits management plan, and could go back and forth. As you know, benefits management plan is a living document, but at the end of the day, these funnel into the development of the charter. And there are many considerations when a charter is being developed. You don't want to develop a charter until your stakeholders are all on the same page, at least those who have been identified, the early adopter stakeholders, right? The early members of the stakeholder circle. If they don't agree, you shouldn't be finalizing the charter. So when we talk about these interpersonal skills and meeting management and stuff like that, you need to organically understand all the nooks and crannies of a process, just like I'm explaining to you. You get what I'm saying? You got to know it deep. This is what I'm finding in a lot of folks who have found the exam hard, not knowing the processes deep enough, right? Lots of loose screws and bolts and nuts that need to be tightened. So while cramming doesn't help, you really need to know the flow, and you really need to put yourself in the flow. Put yourself into the flow. I want you to use a project that you've worked on or one that you're aware of as an example. And I want you to be able to explain all the 49. That's right, all the 49. And I'm so obsessed with helping you that I want you to put me a comment below and tell me where you're struggling. You see, the problem is a lot of folks don't speak up until it's too late. If you feel wobbly and you're struggling in any of the areas, you need to let me know. One more thing for our friends and our students, the 180 question tests. Take both to perfection. I'm talking about in the 90s, especially if you failed it once, you got to take it into the 90s. If you're not getting in the 90s, then there's a problem. You need to take it till you get in the 90s. I will also advise, and this could be for anyone who has access to a reliable learning system, all the knowledge area quizzes. Please take them. And I would say know the deep details of the Agile flow. I put out a video recently about the Agile process flow. While I don't like using the word process associated with just vanilla flavored Agile, it was necessary because people need to understand how things flow in Agile. They flow in a different way. And there's certain do's and don'ts that you want to be thinking about, certain things that you should do. Like if you're in the world of Agile and you're not talking about incremental and iterative, then you're not doing the Agile framework that you say you are. You're doing something else. Agile is both iterative and incremental. So knowing the depth is really important, okay? Again, I created this video purposely to help those of you who are struggling with this exam. I hate to see you struggle, and that's why I have put this video out. If you are struggling to the point of, I don't know what to do next, Phil, I've done everything I can, I want you to give a class called hpmexam.com. I want you to give it a try. hpmexam.com is a 4-hour boot camp that goes through every single piece of your exam: people, process, and business. If you are struggling and you've kind of reached your wit's end and you're like, well, management says I need to do this test and I don't know how I'm going to kill it, you need to go on down to hpmexam.com. Okay? People, process, business, they happen on Sundays and they run for 4 hours plus. In addition to the hpmexam.com boot camp, after the boot camp, we invite you to study with us daily. We have daily scrums where we hold each other accountable. So I would highly advise that you jump on the bandwagon and join us. If all hope is lost and there's nothing else you know to do, join us at hpmexam.com. The next option, if Agile is your Achilles heel, then you need to go on down to agileprinciple.com, because not everyone is being hammered by the PMBOK. Some of you are being hammered by Agile. You just got very, very low Agile awareness. I would advise you to go on down to the website, agileprinciple.com. Look for when our next purely Agile bootcamp is. One of these solutions has got to help you. One of them has got to help you. One of them will help you for sure, I know. But you need to be honest and take a look at your result, assess where you're weak, go through the people, process, business, and look for the specifics. Some of you are just weak in schedule, cost, and resources. Some of you are weak in the aspect of procurements and hybridization and other things, okay? Which takes me to my last point here. My last point is hybrids. Some of you are weak in hybrids. The only idea you have about hybrids is you're combining predictive and agile, and that's all you know. Well, to be honest, my friend, that's not enough. We got to go to the next level. We got to step it up. So what I need you to do is read pages 27 and 28, first of all, in the Agile Practice Guide. And then I need you to go through pages 90 to 95 in the Agile Practice Guide. So I'm going to make that very clear in this next slide we're going to create here. For hybrids, there is a specific line of thinking you need to have. Now, I want to talk about that for just a second. Hybrids, you got to understand pages 27 and 28 in the Agile Practice Guide. Agile Practice Guide. And that is the page where we have all of the hybrid models broken down. And there's a few more. You also need to understand the possibility of hybrids as a transition model. You need to realize that hybrids for some companies is a way out when you're looking to transition. You also need to read pages 90 to 95. And I'm talking about the Agile Practice Guide again. This is going to help you firm up how to apply knowledge areas in an agile environment. And it seems like the PMI is beginning to distinguish more and more between ACP and PMP, because ACP does not focus heavily on this hybrid idea. The PMP seems a lot more focused on it. So you need to know when to be hybrid, how, why. You also need to understand the role of the PMO. Read that again in the Agile Practice Guide and beef up your understanding of practices of Agile. And I want you to read pages 50 forward, all the way till the end of that section about practices, because there's a specific section about practices. So all the way to the end of practices. Okay. Doing that is going to help beef up your hybrid awareness. Also on this channel, look out for some videos that I put out a while back about practices of Agile and how those could cohabit with predictive. And I just call them hybrid 101 or something like that, hybrid questions. So look out for that. And again, don't forget, these two options can help you, hpmexam.com, agileprinciple.com. And again, please put a comment below. If you're struggling in any way and you need help, please put that comment below so I can help you. One more free item I want you to be aware of is on our website. It's a plan for those folks who might have experienced hardship on the PMP exam. So the two links I'm going to put below. One of them is called the stamp out page. It's a failure stamp out. We're trying to stamp out failure on this exam. So if you go to projectmanagementdoctor.com/stamp out, I'm going to put that in the slide so that you can see it. Let me put that below. It's one of the things I want you to check out. Here we go. Let's make this a little bit smaller and put this in here. All right, so you see that link right over there that says projectmanagementdoctor.com/stamp out. Go there and begin to watch the videos that we have for those folks who may have experience difficulty on the PMP exam. All right. Don't forget, we also have our 40 days to PMP exam success, which is free on YouTube. It's a set of videos. Again, follow the days, be diligent, and it's going to pay off in the long run. It helps you day by day to find gaps, close gaps, get good. So right over here, as you can see on the screen, I'm just putting that one on there for you as well. And there you go. 40-day, all right? I hope these tools help you, and I hope this video gives you some encouragement to know someone cares about you acing the exam. I know the amount of mental torture some of you have had just trying to overcome it, and I feel for you, which is why I show up regularly to give you encouragement. All right, just do these things. Speed read as far as getting good. Practice the art of reading quick. If you have the ability to get accommodations, get those accommodations from PMI, and study the hybrids. Okay. All the very best. I wish you the best, and let me know how it goes. Bye for now.